Welcome to Business Over Beer, where entrepreneurs, small business owners, and people passionate about what they do bring us their stories and their favorite beer. Hosted by Ben Surratt, Jonathan Kaler, and Jason Knope, it's time to get down to business and drink some beer.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Business Over Beer podcast. I am your co-host, Ben Surratt. Alongside me is Mr. Terror of Power, the man of the hour, Mr. Three times, Jonathan Kaler.
Hey, thank you, Ben. Good evening. Hey, I'm really excited for something tonight because I was editing this afternoon, and the episode I was editing, you called yourself the host. And it hurt my feelings a little bit. So I'm glad you came back to. I'm glad you came back to co-host.
Well, you know, we're so famous now. We're just right behind the Sasquatch hunters.
Dude,
my head was getting a little bit big.
We are right on their heels.
We are there, man. Yeah. We're there.
Hey, you know the other thing I'm excited about?
What's that?
You know what I found today?
What did you find?
I found my man voice today.
Oh, man voice.
Last week when we recorded, I don't know what happened. I guess Knope's been rubbing off on me. Hey, who said Knope? Hey. The gift that keeps on giving. Knope,
yes,
welcome back to the program.
Thank you, guys. Excited to be here and drink some beer tonight.
Are we drinking beer tonight?
We are going to drink some beer tonight.
Are we going to drink any good beer tonight?
I sure as hell hope so.
I hope so. Hey, last week, the other thing about last week, you know, I like to be the man in the room with the best hair.
Oh,
I'm growing mine out. That's it.
My goodness.
I lost that battle.
Ooh.
You like to be the man in the room with the best hat.
Ooh.
You're losing that tonight.
I'm losing it.
Oh, yeah.
We have a really great guest today. My very good friend I've known for many years, Mr. John Bentley. John Bentley, welcome to the program, my friend.
Thanks, guys. I'm super happy to be here. Excited to, of course, drink some beer and talk about business, in particular, my business, International TEFL Academy, and teaching English abroad and helping people see the world and make a difference.
Wait a minute. TEFL? Let's start there. Yeah. What does TEFL mean?
TEFL is an acronym. It stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. It's kind of like ESL. There's another one, TESOL, Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. But when it comes to training people to teach English in a foreign country, TEFL is typically the acronym that is used, and that's why we're the International TEFL Academy.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to get into your business, but I want to start a little bit further back.
Yeah.
Go back in your mind's eye, if you will. So you grew up not in the United States of America. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your childhood, and because you grew up in Egypt. So tell us a little bit about that.
That's right, and I consider myself very lucky in that respect. I'm originally from Southern California. That's where I was born. My parents were already addicted to the expatriate lifestyle. When my dad came out of the army, came out of college, he went to the army. He got stationed in Japan. Fell in love with living in Asia, traveling in Asia, living abroad, experiencing new cultures and foods. He learned to drink. He learned to ski.
Wait. He learned to drink?
He grew up in a bit of a religious household where such things were not
gotcha.
Were not typical.
We should have him on the program. He could teach us a thing or two probably about drinking.
How was it learning to drink?
Oh
man, yeah.
In any case, when I was about 5 years old, my dad, who was working a very cushy job in a Los Angeles law firm, he had a house in Malibu, and he got the bug again to go overseas and got an offer to work on a legal development project in Cairo, Egypt. This was 1977. Egypt had just made peace with Israel. It was a very exciting time. And so we made the move to Egypt, and we moved there when I was 5, and we lived there throughout my childhood. I graduated from high school, Cairo American College, and then came back to the States to go to college, but I kept returning to Egypt to work, to study, to travel, and that's how I got the sort of bug for the international lifestyle that has translated into what I do now with International TEFL Academy in terms of helping people live their dream of seeing the world, living overseas, and making a difference by teaching English abroad. So basically, we train people to teach English abroad, and then we help them find jobs all over the world.
Sweet.
Swear to God, he has no notes in front of him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Well,
so when you were in Egypt, growing up in Egypt, did you have any concept of school or the social life of America, or were you kind of just oblivious to that?
Well, I went to an American school, although about half the students were from other countries. There were about 50 different nationalities represented at the school. We had a lot of Americans, other expatriates, kids of people working a lot in the oil industry, this being the Middle East, defense contractors. The U.S. Embassy in Egypt is huge, so there were a lot of kids of diplomats there, and then kids from other companies investing in Egypt, Pepsi, and multinational corporations like that. And then again, a lot of Egyptians, and then also other foreigners who were looking for a good place to put their kids. And so I got to interact with a lot of kids coming from the States. I did come back to the States every summer. I saw Animal House growing up, so did I have some fantasy of what going to college would be like when I returned to the U.S.? Yeah, sure. I wasn't completely shut off from American culture, although it was a very different era. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have cable TV then, so if we wanted to watch an MTV video or something, somebody had to record a VHS tape, and then when they came back to Egypt, they would bring it with them, and that would be, our MTV experience for the next 6 months.
What's a VHS tape?
oh yeah, right.
That's interesting to me, though.
No, it is. We've had many conversations over the years about how you grew up, and obviously that set your sort of life trajectory in a certain path, not only career-wise, but also for just a value that you have and that you've imparted onto your family from a travel standpoint. Talk just for a minute about that. Why is travel so important to you, and why do you think it's important, especially for your kids, to be continually traveling about?
Well, I think it's important to be exposed to different people, different cultures, different religions. I think people who travel and who are exposed to people from different backgrounds are more likely to be more tolerant. They're likely to be more open-minded. They're more likely to care about people in other parts of the world. I think that's important. And one thing as an American is that when I travel and live in foreign countries, it gives me an appreciation for what we do really well here in the United States and what we don't do well. Yeah. So we tend to think of ourselves as being the best ever and everything under the sun. In some respects, that's true, and you really appreciate that when you're living or traveling abroad. For example, we do have the best beer in the United States.
We've learned that the hard way a couple different times, haven't we, Paul?
And you also realize, there are certain things that we don't do well in this country, and so I just feel it's important for my children, and to be able to expand their horizons, be able to explore other countries and cultures. And the other thing is, it's just a hell of a lot of fun, to go somewhere new, eat something different. And it's a bonding experience as well with whoever you're traveling with.
Amen to that.
Very cool.
Speaking of drinking beer,
I have a feeling that was a good segue into the beer that he brought.
Thirsty. Yeah.
This is the Business Over Beer podcast. So this is the beer portion, John. So why don't you tell us? You brought beer, didn't you?
I sure did.
Excellent. Tell us about the beer you brought.
Okay. Well, I brought Tiger beer, and Tiger beer is from Singapore, and even though I've never lived in Asia plays a major role both in my personal story, and it's a major part of what we do at my business, International TEFL Academy, because Asia is by far the largest job market and has the largest demand for people to go and teach English abroad. So there are 400 million people learning English in China, for example. For me personally, my parents lived in Singapore before I was born. When my father came out of law school at Berkeley, he could have had any job at any law firm in California. But instead, he and my mother went to Singapore, where he taught law and where my mom basically spent her time learning to cook. And that's how I sort of developed one of my passions, which is cooking and eating Asian food. I've had tremendous experiences traveling in Asia. And so Tiger Beer, it's one of those things that, you know, it takes me back to sitting on a corner in Saigon, you know, in the sweltering Southeast Asian heat and humidity, drinking a cold Tiger while maybe eating a big bowl of pho, or digging into a big pile of chili crab in Singapore. Tiger Beer is what you're drinking when you're doing that. And so those are some of my fondest memories. It represents travel. It represents Asia. It represents some of my family roots. I was actually conceived in Southeast Asia, so
we don't want to hear
it's
about that.
part of my
I don't want to know about
part of my origins is that part of the world, and Tiger Beer is sort of representative of the eating and drinking culture of that part of the world. And drinking is a big part of many Asian cultures, and it's a big part of the business culture in many Asian cultures as well.
Well, here.
Pho, yeah.
Cheers.
Prost.
Prost.
Thanks for being here, my friend. This should be up your alley there, Lager Boy. What do you think?
Dude, you bring any pho? Because
Pho, yeah.
not only am I hungry now, but that beer would go good with that.
It certainly would. And he still
wow.
owes me chili crab, but we're not going to get
That
into
was
that.
my next question.
he makes a badass chili crab.
I like to cook pho too, so we could do that sometime. But that's one of the great things about living abroad or traveling abroad is, you know, being able to eat and drink great stuff, and that includes the local beer, even if it isn't my favorite type of beer. I tend to prefer, you know, strong ales and IPAs and so forth. But
I think it's good.
That's why I wanted to bring this beer.
Yeah, I'm not a big lager drinker, but
Yeah.
it's really clean.
It's good.
And
It does have plenty of body. It really does.
yeah, I was
It really
a little
does.
skeptical. I was afraid it was going to be a Sapporo
Yeah.
or a what's the other one out of India?
Tsingtao, is that? Where's
No,
that
that's
from?
Thai.
That's Thai.
No,
that's right.
what's the one from India?
India.
But anyway, neither here nor there. I'll edit that part out
Yeah.
so I don't sound like an idiot.
Me either.
It's not a stretch though. But no,
good.
it's actually it's pretty nice. It said award-winning full-bodied beer. I'm like, yeah, right.
It
wink,
does.
Wink, nudge,
It
nudge.
is very body.
But it's got good
It's
flavor.
really good.
It's a nice beer, and it would go good with a
Yes.
big
Yeah.
bowl of pho.
Growing up in Egypt, I grew up drinking Egyptian beer Stella. I would have brought that. Of course, there was no chance. Stella is a lager, kind of like Tiger. Egypt, even though it's an Islamic country, it is a very cosmopolitan country. The English, the French, the Italians, the Greeks, they've actually been brewing beer in Egypt for 5,000 years, so it has a rich beer tradition. And I was happy to sample that while while growing up as a young man.
Very cosmopolitan.
So when you left Egypt to go to college, was it because you would visit off and on when you were growing up in Egypt, right? Was there a culture shock or not really? Were you kind of just, this is what I thought it would be?
Yeah, there were definitely some adjustments for sure. The weather being one, having grown up in the hot deserts of Egypt and then moving to New England and adjusting to the weather. I never got to see American sports on TV growing up in Egypt. So it was like, oh my God, there's an actual NBA game on I can watch.
Yeah.
Probably spent too much time watching NFL and NBA my first couple of years in college.
First couple years.
Well, I do actually have an NBA connection to my childhood in Cairo, and that is that I knew Steve Kerr and his family who lived in Cairo back in the 70s and the 80s, and we used to go camping and fishing with his family. Steve was usually back in the States playing basketball, and we had no idea at the time that he would become, one, a successful player, or two, a successful coach. But I think you can see from what he has to say about current events and social issues that he's somebody who also gained a lot from living abroad and being exposed to a different part of life. His parents were both academics in the Middle East. He was born in Lebanon. His dad was born in Lebanon. So another family that has very tight connections with that part of the world.
Does he drink beer?
Can you get him on the show?
What's he doing for New Year's? Could you put a call in for us?
So New England. Why New England?
Well, I was fortunate enough to go to Harvard University, and that was an opportunity I couldn't turn down. I do have family in New England. My grandparents lived in Vermont for many, many years. My parents had connections there. So, yeah, Boston's a great town. I wanted to live in Boston. Cambridge.
Love Boston. Love New England.
Yeah, it's a great sports town, a good beer town. I mean, at the time,
Very much.
Sam Adams was sort of the craft beer of the universe, basically.
How long were you there then? I mean, throughout college, obviously, but did you stay there after college or?
Yeah, well, I lived. I was in Cambridge, going to college. When I finished college, I actually moved up to my grandparents' place, and I started working as a freelance travel writer. And I went and I wrote a guidebook on Egypt for Open Road Publishing. So I got to go back to Egypt, travel around for about 6 to 9 months, do all kinds of researching hotels and sites and writing stuff. And
did you have a picture of yourself in the magazine, the book? With the cowboy hat? That would be awesome.
Well, I got the cowboy hat a year ago, so no.
Bentley's Guide to Egypt.
Oh, my God.
That would be awesome, bro.
Is that still in print?
I was just going to say.
I want a signed copy for my library.
I think I might have one lying around the house.
Yes.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
That is really cool.
And then I wrote another guidebook about Vermont, and I loved living in Vermont. It was a bit remote, and travel writing, at least on that level, was not a sustainable way of life. And I'd always been interested in current events and journalism, specifically the Middle East, but also American politics. And I was thinking, I talked to some local journalists in the area, and I had some connections at the Boston Globe and so forth. And they were like, hey, go to journalism school, write your recommendations. You'll get the training you need so that you actually know how to do reporting and write a story and all that. And at that point, I went to get my master's at Northwestern in Evanston, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. My grandparents went to Northwestern. My other grandparents went to University of Chicago. My mother was born in Chicago. So going back to Chicago was, something that really excited me. Getting a degree from Medill School of Journalism was really exciting and provided some great opportunities. That's where I met Liz, my wife.
All of that was only the second, third, fourth best things that happened to you in Chicago, because you met me in Chicago.
That's about ninth on the list.
Dude, top 10, bro.
Top 10.
But it's part of my professional story because I really got to hone my writing skills even further. I got to go back to Egypt and work at the Associated Press Bureau.
That's awesome,
I got to go cover Capitol Hill.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that in the bio that you wrote. I didn't know that either. Talk about that experience in writing on Capitol Hill. When did you do that, and who did you do that for?
Well, I was getting my master's at Northwestern, and they have a very unique program in Washington, D.C., where they have arrangements with various local papers, newspapers, and news outlets across the country who maybe can't afford to send a full-time correspondent to Washington. So these advanced journalism students get full credentials to cover Capitol Hill and other parts of the government and sort of the political scene per se, sometimes even the White House. And they report for these local newsletters. So I was reporting for the Great Falls Tribune in Montana, and also the Waterloo Courier in Waterloo, Iowa. And so I was particularly following and covering different issues related to those states and legislation. So a lot of agriculture-related stuff, trade-related stuff. I got to spend a lot of time with their elected representatives, so their senators and congressmen, and so forth. And so that was exciting to be able to actually go to Capitol Hill and interact with these people and write stories and then see them published. And it was exciting. And that journalism was sort of what I was going to go into. And then, a bunch of stuff happened in my life. I ended up settling down with Liz in Chicago and then getting into more travel-related business stuff and marketing and so forth. And that eventually led to, getting together with my other co-founders for International TEFL Academy and translating all that international experience and that writing experience into sort of learning to become an entrepreneur and building a company revolving around helping people go abroad.
Why should somebody want to teach internationally?
Well, there are all kinds of reasons why you would want to teach internationally. One, it's a huge job market. So there are 2 billion people around the world learning English. And so if you're looking for an easy way to get a job, actually teaching English overseas is pretty easy compared to a lot of other fields. There's high demand and it doesn't go anywhere because people just need to learn English. For better or for worse, if you want to get ahead in life, if you're living in China, if you're living in Spain, if you're living in Costa Rica or Thailand or Egypt, if you speak English, your educational and your job opportunities, your professional opportunities are just going to be enhanced exponentially because so many jobs require that people speak English. It's the international language of commerce and culture and travel and tourism and medicine and just about everything else. And the internet is, 70% in English and so on. The second reason, you get paid to live overseas. So a lot of us want to go abroad and spend extended time experiencing a foreign culture, traveling, really immersing yourself in some foreign country, whether it's Japan or Germany or Colombia or Mexico or whatever it is. But typically you need to sustain yourself, and teaching English is an relatively easy way for anybody from any background. You don't have to have a background in education or even a college degree to get a paying job.
Wait. So I don't need to have a college degree to teach overseas like that?
No. Now, there's some countries where it's basically a legal requirement. So if you want to teach English in, say, South Korea, Japan, in those countries, it's a requirement. In other countries, it's not a requirement. So in many Latin American countries, European countries, a place like Cambodia, you can get a very good job teaching English, either in person or teaching English online without a college degree. So if you get a TEFL certification, which is the sort of courses that we provide as our business, it will provide you with the training you need to actually run a class and the qualification you need to actually get hired. And we also provide the job placement assistance you need to actually find jobs.
Are there any particular characteristics you look for in a person, or can anyone go through your training?
Basically, anybody who's an English speaker. We have a lot of non-natives who go and teach abroad. We train about 6,000 people a year to teach English overseas. They range in age from 18, 19 years old up to folks in their 60s and 70s. Certainly most people who do this are right out of college. A lot of them are people who studied abroad and they got the bug of living and traveling abroad and thinking, hey, how can I go back overseas and do this and sustain myself or even make money? And teaching English abroad is just the easiest field because there's so much demand. Literally across
that definitely
the globe.
appeals to me. I mean, that's something that I got that bug too. Right out of my first year of college, I went on exchange, and ever since then, it's how can I get back? What can I do to get back? I want to go. And for somebody who maybe doesn't have a full-time job somewhere and they're just looking to be able to go back and to just go and find employment, that's pretty massive. That's
Agreed.
huge.
I agree with you, man.
Knope has 2 kids, a wife, and 2 jobs. Do you think he's a good candidate? We had a guest on, Rihanna, who taught English abroad. She taught English in Japan. And one of the things that she mentioned was, you didn't have to have a college degree, and she was able to get a job that paid really well. And what I thought was interesting was she said she was teaching her students how to speak it, because her students all knew how to read and write it really, really well.
Yeah, well, I mean, conversational English is huge because people need and want to be able to hold a conversation in English in the real world. Interacting with people who speak English at its natural speed and so forth. And many of the teachers in these countries, it's the same thing. They may know how to read and write, but their speaking skills are less than fluent. And so they want native speakers to come and expose them to how English is actually spoken in the real world, in addition to teaching grammar and, reading and writing and those sorts of things. But conversational English is definitely huge, because if you want a job where you have to interact with people in English, you got to have those speaking skills. You got to have those comprehension skills. And that's huge. And that's one reason why business English is huge. So not everybody who goes abroad and teaches English abroad are teaching kids in school.
That was one of my questions.
Percentage of the opportunities are working people in business, in universities, government officials, people who work in tourism, industries like that. And that's a huge part of the deal as well. And it can really vary. So if somebody's going to teach English in, let's say, Germany as an American, in most cases, you're actually going to be working often with adults.
Yeah.
You may find a job here and there teaching kids, or you may get a tutoring job teaching kids, but very often it's working with adults. In other parts of the world, East Asia, you can find jobs working with but huge opportunities working with kids. In a lot of these countries, including France, Spain, Japan, South Korea, just to name a few, the governments actually recruit thousands of Americans to come work as assistant or co-teachers in the actual public schools, so grade schools, high schools, middle schools.
I would think that's one of the biggest misnomers about your business is I think most people think that they have to teach kids.
Yeah, and a lot of people are terrified of working with kids.
Yeah, exactly. No, they are.
Have you met my kids? And they speak English, sort of.
But it's interesting because working with adults is, presents other challenges and other cultural sensibility issues that you have to deal with. So one thing that we do, in addition to offering courses that provide you with basic skills for teaching English as a foreign language in terms of, reading and writing and all that, and running a classroom and lesson planning and, error correction, which is huge. How do you correct a student in a way that encourages them to engage and participate, that doesn't embarrass them, and so forth. All of that is key. But then we also offer specifically to our own students and graduates additional specialty classes in teaching English to young learners, children, teaching English online, which is a huge field that's just booming. And it provides great opportunities because you don't have to be tied down in one country. You can literally country hop month to month and just teach the same students. You're making the same salary. As long as you have an internet connection, you can teach from anywhere. So, and it's a great side hustle as well for people who may be teaching full-time at a school in Peru or Ecuador or Vietnam or what have you. And then we also have a course specifically for teaching English to business English, which is basically teaching English to adults generally, and with a little bit more specificity for teaching people in the business world. But it's because teaching adults, totally different challenge than teaching children.
Yep.
I'm really interested to get into, because I know this is your specific line of work at your company. I'm really interested to hear how you try to find all of these candidates to actually go and teach abroad. But we're not going to get into that now.
We have
because it is time for
Angie's mystery beer.
Thank God, because I'm thirsty.
So, Mr. Bentley, every week, my lovely wife, who you know, Angela, she picks out a beer for this particular podcast. And we don't know what it is. And in the past, we have tried to, we just open it up and it's, oh, it's blah, blah, blah. But now we're changing the game. So you're going to open this up. It's in the bag. She blacked out the cap. Open it up, keep it in the bag, and we're going to pour it into our glasses, and we're going to try to guess. Last week I was on money. I was on point, though, last week. I was on point. I knew right away.
Well, you probably saw it in the fridge.
No, I did not see it. I swear to you.
So, JB, go ahead and open up Angie's mystery beer.
Just open
Yes.
it. Leave it in the bag.
Ooh.
All right, here we go.
It's an Imperial. Cheers. Prost.
Girl.
Some Imperial with a hint of tiger beer.
He'll fit in just fine.
Excellent.
It's not as heavy as I thought. Like, it's really malty. It has a
It's
really
malty.
heavy aroma, but
The bitterness is harsh at first, and then it goes away.
it kind of mellows for a
It
minute, and then
really does.
and then the malt comes up the back. So I don't. It's piney.
Yeah,
It's something northwesty,
Canope hates it.
I wouldn't say that I hate it.
but he wouldn't say that he likes it.
It's going to get drank. I'm going to drink what's in my glass, that's for sure.
All right.
To me, it just dies off. You get the hit
It's-
up front, and then boom, it's gone.
It's surprising. It's surprising how fast it.
It really. You're
Got
right.
away.
You're right.
It's kind of weird. I won't lie to you. It's not what I expected. I don't know. All right, JB, pull it out of the blue bag.
And it is Ace of Spades.
From our friends from Hub.
Imperial India Pale Ale from Hopworks.
Let me see that bottle.
Did she do Ace of Spades already? I don't remember.
She didn't either.
Yeah.
That's a repeat.
Ace of Spades.
You're going to end up
Did she
making
really? I don't
up
remember
her
that.
game.
That's fine.
No, we still got beer.
Yeah.
And we like Hub. We love.
Oh, Love Hub.
Yeah, we love Hub.
Enough about that. Let's get back to his business. How long does it generally take somebody to get through a certification at the International TEFL Academy?
Well, the classes themselves that we offer, which are all internationally accredited, meet and exceed international standards in terms of the depth of the curriculum, the number of hours of training, the level of the instructors. So all of our courses are taught by university level instructors in the field. A typical in-person accredited TEFL class, a professional level training class, is going to be a 4-week intensive class, which is basically like boot camp for English teachers.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in class 9 to 5, 5 days a week, plus homework. You may have extra live practice teaching hours on the side. So part of any good TEFL class is you do practice teaching with actual ESL students. Not role playing, but actually working with actual ESL students. So in our classes, for example, we bring in local ESL students in Chicago or wherever it is that we have classes. Our biggest class is actually our online class, which is a part-time class. It's basically the same curriculum taught online. It's a part-time class. It's designed to accommodate people who are working or going to school full-time or, want to get certified from home. And that is an 11-week part-time class. Basically, students can expect to work 10 to 12 hours a week, give or take. And that class, it's online. It's very interactive in terms of it's taught by a professor. There are 20 students, capped at 20 students per class. There are live videos and webcasts and so forth, but there's no required live time. So if you can't tune into a live lecture online because you have to go to work or go to school, it's recorded and you can review it on your own time. You just have to meet your assignments each week. So the training itself will either be 4 weeks or 11 weeks plus practicum, which is usually 2, 3, 4 weeks if you're doing it online. But the process of getting certified, getting a job, moving overseas, that process can be anywhere from 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 months, depending on any number of factors. So in some parts of the world, schools are hiring once or twice a year during specific months. So you need to be certified and ready to interview either in person in that country. So if you want to teach English in Argentina, for example, you need to be in country interviewing on the ground to get a job. Now, that's something that we assist all of our students with, and we provide them with the contacts, help them set with the interviews and so forth. Or they're interviewing from home. So if they're going to Asia, they're interviewing on Skype or GoToMeeting or Zoom, or they're meeting with recruiters in the United States. They set up everything in advance. They have to get their visa processed and this and that. So going to Korea or Japan or someplace like that, or let's say Dubai in the Middle East, that can be, again, a 3, 6, 9.
Is one of the biggest pushbacks that you get from people? Let me rephrase that. What is the biggest pushback that you've heard from people that you want to recruit? Like, what's a pushback that people's like, I don't want to do X?
It totally varies. Oh, I don't want to miss my cousin's wedding. I don't want to miss Thanksgiving with my, I don't want to, I don't, if I move to Japan, am I going to have to miss Thanksgiving with my parents? Or, and we all love Thanksgiving with our parents. We do that every year for generations on that. Guess what?
Once in a while.
That's Thanksgiving that you have with your friends in Korea, where you get together and you go to the market and you buy a live turkey and they cut the head off in front of you, and then you go home and cook it. Is going to be the most
greatest experience.
Right. It's going to be
best Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you're the most memorable Thanksgiving of your life. But it really varies. Some people think, I don't want to pay for the TEFL class, or if I go abroad, am I going to have to leave my cat? They're just endless excuses, really,
Sure.
that people come up not to go have this wonderful experience.
And how do you combat that? How do you say, well, I understand where you're coming from, but
Next.
Well, we have a lot of articles and information on our site about these sorts of questions and issues, and that's where I come in as the writer, as the person who has everybody on our team has experience with this, but as the one generating content, our approach from the very beginning was, how do we answer all these questions and objections that people have? And so we just write articles about all of them, make videos about literally 500 plus articles and FAQs on our website. And there are all kinds of questions people have. Do I have to know the local language? The answer is 90% of the time, no. They're not hiring you to come speak Spanish. They're hiring you to come teach English. And they actually don't want you to speak the local language in the classroom. You want to immerse your students in an English and only environment when they're in your classroom. So
that's another
you're not going there to show off your college Spanish or your
that's another thing.
Your half-assed Japanese.
I totally would have. Man, I'm glad you're here. I would have guessed that you would have to know how to speak that language.
You're teaching them your language, so.
That's right. Although if you do, let's say you've studied Spanish in high school and college and you really want to master it, what's one of the best ways to do it? Go to a Spanish-speaking country in Latin America where you're living in it and you're hearing and seeing it. Even if you're only using English in the classroom, when you're outside of the classroom, you're in the markets, you're in the nightclubs, you're talking to taxi drivers and riding the bus and
For sure.
Going to the grocery store, hey, you're immersed in the language. You're watching the local TV. Great way to, improve your language skills. So if you do want to learn a language, going abroad and teaching English is a great way to get paid to live in a country where you can immerse yourself in that language, take lessons if you want, and so forth.
Do you guys have like a follow-up curriculum? Like after, say, somebody's gone through the process a year or two later, is there any sort of refresher course or something that they should learn if they go to, say, another country, a European country to an Asian country?
Well, like I said, we have different specialty classes that we offer, and then we provide job search guidance for all different parts of the world. So if somebody teaches English, and this is what a lot of people will do, they'll go to some place like South Korea or China or Japan or one of these East Asian countries where even first-time English teachers can save 30 to 50% of their income after expenses. So a first-time English teacher in South Korea can save $1,000 a month after expenses, $15,000 a year. And then they decide, maybe I want to go to Ecuador or Peru, or maybe I want to volunteer somewhere in Africa. Maybe the pay's not that great. They have that financial savings that they built up in Asia, and they also have access to any job search resources they need to find jobs and so forth. We provide tons of resources in terms of, where can you, learn more about lesson planning or this or that or anything like that, in addition to the specialty classes that we offer. A lot of our students, they want to go abroad for a year or two for the experience, and then they want to come home and go to grad school or do whatever. Others, they get hooked and they become lifers, and maybe they get married to a local, or they just keep teaching, or they keep going from country to country to country. They just get hooked on that international lifestyle, and they never come home, literally.
I don't think my wife would like that if I got married to a local. However, it might be pretty cool to be able to go for a month or two and just and have some employment while I'm there.
Maybe she would.
She might. It's possible.
All right, John. So I'm curious. We were talking earlier about the classes and the curriculum, and then of course all of the follow-up support. How does the International TEFL Academy make money? So is your profit and revenue tied solely to people completing the classes, or is there some sort of revenue or profit that is tied to you placing these students in actual jobs? Or do you not really, I hate to be so callous, but do you not really care if they end up getting a job? Really, you just need them to complete the classes. What is sort of the revenue structure for this business?
So we basically, our revenue is from selling our classes. Now, for us, it's not just about selling the class and that's it. What we're committed to, and this is our philosophy, this is what we believe in, this is what we got into this field to do, is to help people get trained, become good teachers, and then go abroad and have a great job and have a great experience. And this is something that sets us apart really from most of the other actors in our field, is that we provide
I love that shade. I love that shade, bro. I love that.
Is that we really stress the back end, providing the support and guidance they need to get a job. If you're going to take our class and then you can't find a job, that's not what we're about. And it's not good for our business, because then people will say, hey, I spent a bunch of money on your class and I can't get a job.
Sure.
And we have enormous resources in terms of just thousands of pages of, or hundreds of pages of databases, listing for employers, how-to guides for how to get a job in every major job market in the world, explanations about hiring practices and visas and all of that. And all of our students are able to get in touch with advisors to help them with everything from going over their resume, how to get the right criminal background check, helping them get in touch with recruiters, and so forth. So that is critical. We have an enormous success rate in terms of our students being able to get jobs. And it's not just the back end, it's also the front end. Before they ever put a dime to pay for course tuition, they work with an advisor who has one, lived abroad, 90% of them taught abroad. So they understand the challenges and rewards of going abroad and doing this. And that's key, because you don't want people signing up for a class under any sort of misunderstandings or false pretenses. We won't even let people sign up for a class until they've spoken with an advisor and they have a clear understanding of how the job markets work, what sort of opportunities are going to be available to them, what's it going to cost, what can they expect in terms of, any visa issues or anything like that. So it's really a three-step process. It's like a flywheel. Like HubSpot now says the funnel is dead. Now it's the flywheel. You got the pre-customer status. You make the sale. You enroll them into your business, and then providing them with the post sale support that they need to make them a lifelong customer and hopefully an evangelist. So we have an enormous alumni engagement program. We encourage people to write articles and do videos, and we put them all over our website and our social media. We arrange alumni meetups all over the world. We just had our alumni meetup day in September. We had ITA alumni in like 30 cities worldwide. Getting together and meeting with each other and sharing stories. We have alumni Facebook groups for 80 countries, and then plus, mature teachers teaching online and so forth, where our alumni can share ideas, ask questions, share job tips, arrange meetups, and so forth. And so we've really built this community of international teachers and travelers, 25,000 strong, and that is just huge, and it's a great selling point, and most importantly, it provides our customers with a way to make the most of their international experience, and it helps them become evangelists for us, because nobody else in the field does anything like this, not even close.
That's awesome, man.
That is absolutely incredible, man.
Dude, we've interviewed how many people now? 13. And every one of them, I listened for this four-letter word. That's help. Help should be the number one thing if you're going to be an entrepreneur or a small business, is you need to help. You're helping fill a gap, but you said it over and over and over again, which means to me you're passionate about it, and you are your own church, your own evangelist. You are. You're doing it.
And like 50% of our students who take our class and then go abroad, they've never even been abroad before at all.
Wow.
Wow. And I'd say 85-90% of them have no teaching experience before they go and do this. So they really do. Yeah, they need to understand, hey, this is realistic. This is how you do it. It's okay to ask these questions. We're here to provide the answers, and we're going to be realistic about, how this works and what you need to expect, so that you don't think you're just buying some golden ticket. You're not buying a job. We don't give you a job. We don't sell you a job. We don't place you in a job, but we provide you with the training you need,
the resources
the tools you need, and the support you need to make this a reality. I mean, I think our job search team is bigger and more experienced than most big university career services offices, I'm afraid to say, but it's true.
We'll fact check that for you.
Yeah.
What's a typical investment that a person would make in their future to become certified and teach abroad.
So you mean what sort of startup costs if
Yeah.
they want to teach abroad? Keen to explain to people is, yeah, there are going to be some startup costs. It could be anywhere from, let's say, $1,500 to $4,000 or $5,000.
Sure.
Depending on where you take the class and flights you have to take and so forth. And in many cases, you're going to have to pay to fly to a certain country to start working. Now, in other countries, South Korea, China, Saudi Arabia, there's certain countries where they're going to pay for your flights. Yeah. So a lot of people, they're like, hey, I want to work in Italy. Oh, I can get free flights in South Korea and save $1,000 a month and get free apartment and paid vacation and an extra month's salary bonus at the end of my contract. And then they actually read about South Korea and understand what a freaking cool country it is in terms of culture and food, and Seoul is one of the nightlife capitals of the world, and they're like, okay, I'm going to South Korea. So it just depends, but we're here to explain to you, hey, this is what you can realistically expend to invest in this experience. Will pay for itself many times over.
Incredible.
If not financially, then certainly in terms of the experience. Unfortunately, there are a lot of other actors in our business who offer super cheap classes with no job search guidance and so forth. We get literally dozens of inquiries, either through our website, forums and so forth, or calls from people who they take some class from some other organization that doesn't provide this sort of assistance, and they're like, hey, can you help me get a job in Spain? Well, you took a class from some other, school. They don't help you find a job? Nope. Well, I mean, that's why you want to get certified with International TEFL Academy.
So when you say 1,500 to what, 5? You said 5,000?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying if you're including like
Travel
flights
cost,
here and there and travel costs. And
Okay, so let me get this straight. I could get a job, potentially get a job, take your course in 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. I could have a job lined up and paid only $1,500 to $5,000 and have a job in like a different country. It's like that inexpensive.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people,
Dude.
that's not inexpensive, but
Dude, the cost just seems so low. Like,
well, I think when you're looking at the value of the experience, of
Yeah.
living and traveling
Yes.
abroad, yeah, it pays for itself many times over.
I mean, just the life experience alone, it's a no-brainer.
Wow.
I'm blown away.
Yeah, me
Dude,
too.
I am blown away.
Absolutely.
John, our tagline is real stories, real passion, real beer, and it's
Check.
clear.
Check.
It's clear that you have real passion for what you do, and the business model that you guys have set up is legit. And what you brought to us and opened our eyes to the ins and outs of what you guys do is incredible. And knowing you at the level that I know you, we didn't even get into the ins and outs of content marketing and really some of the advanced marketing techniques that you guys employ, which I think would be really beneficial, particularly to startups and sole proprietorships and some of the small business folks that listen to our podcast. So I'm hoping that maybe you'll bring more beer and come back and we can talk about that in another episode someday.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. SEO, content marketing, these are all passions of mine. In addition to, customer service and
Hey,
stuff
that's,
like that.
that's my deal. But we would love to have you back to get into
Yeah,
that.
I would
Some
love
of
to
the
know about
insights
that,
you
for
could,
sure.
Could give to our listeners
For sure.
would be really helpful. So, Ben,
Yes.
it's time
Is it time for the final question?
for the final question.
So, JB,
Yes.
you have your own talk show. Who is your first guest?
I'm going to say either David Chang or Bob Weir.
I know one of those names.
Yeah, I know one of them.
One of them may have been a teacher when I was in elementary school, Mr. Weir.
All right. Who are your first two guests and why?
Why?
Go.
Well, Bob Weir is a member of the Grateful Dead, a band I'm passionate about because it's a band about traveling and exploring and expanding your horizons. Their music is American to the core, and he's just an amazing guy. I mean, he's 72 years old. The guy's been done who knows how much acid and God knows what else, and he's in Men's Health this week getting featured for his workout routine.
Yeah, I saw that. Incredible.
And a guy who will play music with anybody from anywhere, whether they're, African drummers or, American folkies or jazz guys or what have you. So
And even John Mayer.
and John Mayer is new best bud. And then David Chang is he's a chef who has broken a lot of ground in terms of exposing at least American foodies to different types of Asian cuisine. I love Asian cuisine, and so and he's another free spirit guy who is he's a business guy at the same time. Sometimes I worry that he's too much of a business guy and he's losing his cooking focus, but hey, he'd be another personality I'd love to have on a talk show. And then
Well, you can ask him that question when he's your guest.
right.
John, thank you so much for coming on the show. So John Bentley from International TEFL Academy. If people want to learn more about International TEFL Academy, about teaching English abroad as a foreign language, what is the best place for people to go check out?
Well, they should go to www.internationalteflacademy.com. So TEFL is TEFL, internationalteflacademy.com. All one word. You can also call us at 773-634-9900, and you will be put in touch with an expert advisor. They've been abroad, they've taught abroad, they've been in your shoes, they understand your fears, your concerns, your goals, your aspirations, and they're there to help. They're there to help you realize that goal of seeing the world, teaching English abroad, and making a difference.
Very cool. Dude. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Awesome, bro.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, my
I'm
friend.
going to buy you a beer one of these nights and chat because I think we're going to chat.
I mean,
again.
seriously. I mean, John
cool.
and I go back. I mean, I've known John since 2001, 2002. So, I mean, I've known John for almost 20 years. And I know your passion for what you do, and we are the best of friends. But even I was blown away by some of the things that you talked about tonight. I learned a lot more about you and about what you're about, and really enjoyed it. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Ben, if people want to find out more about Business Over Beer, where can they go?
BizOverBeer.com. They got to visit the website.
Yeah, we got all the things there.
We got everything.
Everything's there.
Everything.
Thank you all for listening to
welcome.
this edition of Business Over Beer. As a reminder, we drank the Tiger Asian Lager, born in Singapore, award-winning full-bodied lager. Angie's Mystery Beer.
Hopworks Urban Brewery, Hub, Ace of Spades.
The sequel.
The sequel. And
We had a little Bodhisattva. We didn't
did.
talk about it, but we drank it. We will see you all next time on Business Over Beer.
thanks, guys. Deuces.
See ya.
Thanks.
That was awesome.
Business Over Beer reminds you to always drink responsibly. Our theme song is Idiocracy by Christian Leo. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Business Over Beer.